Okay, we will call to order our regular meeting of council. And we'll start by recognizing today that we are meeting on the unceded territories of the Sechot and Hupachesit First Nations. Sorry, people at the back, if you're able to just have a seat, or you're welcome to step outside if you like. So we do have an agenda in front of us. Are there any late items to add from councillors? Councillor Solda.
I just want to talk about Rainbow Gardens and maybe inviting them, Madam Mayor. I don't know if that's...
Sure, we can add that under new business. Okay, and any late items to add from our corporate officer?
No, Madam Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Then would somebody like to move approval of our agenda? Moved by Councillor Solda.
Second.
Seconded by Councillor Patola. On the motion, all in favor? Carried, thank you. And we have minutes from the special meeting held at 9:30 a.m. and the regular meeting held at 2 p.m. on November 14th, 2022, and the special meeting held at 3 p.m. on November 21st, 2022. Moved by Councillor Solda, seconded by Councillor Douglas. Any comments on the minutes? Seeing none, on the motion, all in favor? Carried, thank you. So we'll move to public input period. This is an opportunity for members of the public to address council on topics of relevance to City Council, and we take a maximum of 4 speakers for 3 minutes each. Who would like to speak today? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to delegations. Our first delegation from the Municipal Pension Retirees Association, we have Gay Allen and Randy Thowen. Come on forward.
My name is Gay Allen. I'm the chairperson of the Municipal Pension Retirees Association, District 24. We appreciate the opportunity to address Mayor Minion's council and the public this afternoon. The district executive officers with me this afternoon are Lorna Tatro, Randy Thone, Neil Anderson, and Leslie Walerius. The first slide is our logo and just tells you who we are. And if this works, our mission is: the MPRA is an association of retirees that promotes the interests and welfare of the members and communicates activities that are of common interest to the municipal retirees in the municipal pension plan. In addition, the organization provides an opportunity for members to meet on a regular basis and for the purpose as established by the membership. The municipal pension plan is the largest public pension plan in British Columbia. Our association has over 11,000 members. The province is broken into 6 regions managed by directors overseeing 34 districts. Vancouver Island is District 1 and covers the island and Powell River. Port Alberni and the ACRD are in the MPRA District 24. The MPRA holds biennial conventions, elects our provincial executive and directors. The MPRA became a registered association in 2003 as many retirees, seniors, felt that they didn't have a voice in the issues arising in the administration of their pension. Today, the MPRA has ongoing dialogue with the pension board and are hopeful, with perseverance, will in the future have a vote on issues pertaining to the pension. 75% of the municipal pension plan is subsidized by investments. 25% is paid by people currently employed and the employer. MPRA's retirees are both union and members of management. Local contributors to the plan in our community include healthcare workers, firefighters, City of Port Alberni, Alberni-Clyquot Regional District, school district employees except teachers, the Vancouver Island Regional Library, and survivors and beneficiaries of the plan. And now Randy's going to take over. Thank you.
Madam Mayor. Excuse me. So we'd like to talk to you about a sometimes forgotten group in our community, and that's seniors. And while we don't represent every senior in the community, we feel that we have a voice here. Seniors are facing some challenges in these changing times. Well, everybody's facing them, but certainly seniors are very affected by it. And so we're hoping that we can better advocate in addressing issues. In 2014, the City Council of the day established a senior advisory committee, and the committee brought forward such issues as safety, housing, and transportation. That committee was struck as an initiative on the city's part to increase citizen involvement in citizen involvement in civic government. In 2018, the committee was disbanded. In September of 2022, the Seniors Advocate for BC released a report, and she's quoted as saying, "Seniors are falling further behind." The report details the results of a systematic review of the impact of rising costs on BC seniors who depend on government pensions, and ranks BC as the lowest in the financial support for seniors compared to other provinces and territories. The report examines the incomes and expenses of seniors across the board, socioeconomic landscape, and assesses the effectiveness of government support services and subsidies. Our local MPRA District 24 has put some time into researching this, and we find that a number of cities and municipalities and other jurisdictions have created a 5-year age-friendly plan that addresses seniors' concerns. The Municipal Retirees Association represents seniors in our association, and although we share many issues that are concerns to all seniors, we have no mandate to claim that we represent all seniors. Working together with other associations and groups in the community and province, we can together be a strong advocate for seniors, and we're here today to ask City Council to reestablish the Seniors Advisory Committee. Thank you for your time, and we look forward to a positive response, and we're happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much, Randy. Are there questions? Councillor Douglas and then Councillor Solta.
Thanks for being here today, all of you. I was just wondering, is there any particular issues that drove you to come here today to ask for this to be reinstated? Any particular items, or?
You know, the items that we spoke about, both Gay and I here a minute ago, you know, certainly economic impacts in the community, safety is a concern. You know, I think that Mayor and Council and the city have been proactive in working with other groups, you know, the unhoused, children, that kind of thing, and we think that it would be important to bring that committee back so that seniors could have a voice as well.
Councillor Solta.
Interesting. I agree with you, the issues that the seniors are having, because they come through the restaurant all the time, and coffee groups of them, and we have discussions. But I don't remember a seniors committee. I know, like, council represents at senior homes and that, and a lot of people went to the Sunshine Club just to get the information about what they need in that. And I personally believe that we should, a lot of seniors want that one-to-one to get the information. You're talking about advocates and stuff like, and I also believe that there should be an office or something where they can go to get the information, and that's because they would rather talk to somebody directly rather than a computer or press line 1, press line 2. That peeves me off, actually, and because I just want to talk to somebody. I don't want to go through all this hassle. And the seniors I talk to have the same issues.
Yep.
So I totally agree with you.
The Seniors Advisory Committee was started in 2014, and then it met for a few years pretty continually, and then they slowly kind of wound down. They suggested at one point that a spin-off committee be created called the Seniors Housing Committee. We ended up speaking with a few associations in the community who had thought of taking that on, and another group was going to take it on, and I think that it just fizzled and never ended up taking it on. I'm going to go to the rest of the speakers on our list, but I just want to put out there that I think that this is important and could be potentially, I think it fizzled because we didn't have staff support for it. So it was a committee without any real mandate other than the recognition that it was an important issue that wasn't getting, you know, the focus that it needed at the time. I think that there's a conversation to be had here with the health network, because through the regional district, which is broader than just the city, there's funding in place for the facilitation of that committee, and a lot of the issues would overlap. So I'd just like to put that out there as an initial kind of comment, and then I'm going to go to Councillor Dame and then Councillor Patola.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just was wondering, are you, I mean, this partially answered my question, but I was wondering what challenges caused the committee to dissolve in the first place, and because if we were to reinstate this, I feel like we would want to make sure that we had the proper supports in place to make sure that it was successful, rather than just, you know, agreeing to it. We would want to make sure that it was. So yeah, if there's any insight into what caused it to dissolve.
I don't know. I attended a few of the meetings of the committee, and there was a city councillor that sat on the committee. But after 2018, there was no more call to, we used to get emails about meeting. There were various groups. The health component was there, some housing people, and we were there. I was there actually because I was involved with housing as well. So, yeah. Anyway, we just recognize that there's a lot of issues facing everyone, but also seniors, and that's what we're speaking to today. So we just thought with a new city council, not totally new, but partially new, that maybe there would be an appetite to seek and reinstate some kind of a committee.
Thank you.
Okay.
Councillor Patola.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Not directly on topic, but the Sunshine Club was mentioned. I'm just wondering if anyone on city staff that's present could give a brief overview of the current status of the Sunshine Club. Is it fulfilling its original mandate, or do we need more services directed in that area that may complement the request from the delegation?
I don't see our Director of Parks, Recreation and Heritage, so I think we could bring back a bit of an update, potentially even a verbal update at our next council meeting. Okay, we'll add that to our list. Other comments? Okay, Councillor Haggard, are you a representative on the Health Network? Could you just speak to maybe if you see that as a potential overlap or not?
When you mentioned that, I thought that was a fantastic idea, and I'd be happy to bring that to our December meeting. If you could maybe leave your contact information or ask Twyla to share it with me, and I can get hold of you after the meeting and can bring it forward to the committee. And would that work for you?
We will.
Awesome.
I think there's a consideration that maybe the city is the best to facilitate a seniors committee. I'm just hesitant to jump to the city facilitating it when it is broader than just the city of Port Alberni. So sometimes when we have like an already facilitated group, I think from an outsider's perspective, I wasn't the council liaison on the seniors advisory, but we had actually 4 committees that were struck in 2014. All of them died. And that's because we did not give staff resources to those committees. So it's not enough to just create a committee and hope that it all works out. We need to properly resource those committees. So I'd like to, rather than see us just jump to saying, well, we'll start another committee and we'll make a councillor the chair and we'll all meet for fun and not actually necessarily get anything accomplished. I'd like to look to what the actual needs are to be able to make that committee effective. So the health network does have funding, and if they were able to make this a subsidiary of that group so that seniors could get full attention there, that might be an opportunity. And if not, it could come back to the city as a consideration. Councillor Haggard.
I'm just going to add too that the health network also includes the West Coast and Banfield as well, so you'd have a much wider reach and a much wider voice.
Yep.
Okay.
So I think we'll just say that we'll bring it to the health network, and if not, then maybe once we get kind of more information from there, maybe we can bring this back to council in early January to consider what next steps could be. Okay, Councillor Patola.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just wanted to add that I recognize that not only do seniors exist as a group that have specific interests, but also that they have a specific voice. So while we problem solve here to meet some of your needs, I would like to reiterate that irrespective of whatever that solution may be, you always have a voice coming to council.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to our next delegation, D. Charlton, in attendance to discuss the Port Alberni shelter and surrounding areas.
Hi, everyone. My name is Dee Charlton. I live at 3953 9th Avenue. So I'm here today about the shelter. Before I start, I'd like to clear up.
Sorry, point of order, Councillor Douglas.
Sorry to interrupt, Madam Mayor. Just as some people may be aware, I have an employee relationship as special project manager for the Shelter Society, so so there won't be a perception of a conflict of interest. I'm going to leave the room for this particular issue. Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry about that, Dee.
That's all right. No problem.
All right, go ahead whenever you're ready.
Okay. Before I start, I'd like to clear up that the shelter on 8th Street is not a safe injection site. Because of the amount and constant drug use on and around the shelter property, it would be a logical conclusion. But it is not a safe injection site, and I apologize for my misunderstanding. The shelter was built in a residential area. I was under the impression that it was built to house people who are in transition from living on the street to permanent housing. Now, 9th Street has become a place to buy and take their drugs. It's convenient because just at the bottom of the thoroughfare, which you all have pictures of, or have had pictures of, there is a 3-sided shelter with a picnic table. Out of the weather, easy to park, they're buggies. I don't think any of them, maybe some of them, I don't know, live at the shelter. With no control of any of the activities on 9th Street, all the residents on the street are who live in the back with the alley, backing onto the alley, or live on 9th, backing onto the alley. Must put up with their behavior. We all clean up garbage. We all pick up needles, burnt tinfoil, excrement, constantly. We must listen to the loud music, or conversely, drugged up people loudly arguing at all hours of the day and night. As I went around to get people's signatures, the stories were actually quite harrowing. With fire and rescue, the ambulance, and police using this thoroughfare, particularly in the summer months, it gets intolerable. As an example, this summer there was a drug overdose by the Hydro Box, which is directly across from my house, right in front of my house. That fellow died on the street, right in front of my house. On one day, there were 7 overdoses. That means 7 ambulances or fire and rescue or fire trucks on 9th in front of our residences. This is my home. These residents bought their homes with the expectations of a quiet residential area. Many residents purchased their homes prior to the shelter being built. None of us expected to have such drug-induced lawlessness on our residential streets. There is and was a shelter at the corner of Maitland and 8th. It was here prior to the new shelter being built, with no notable incidences at all. This new shelter is totally out of control, with an elementary school almost kitty corner to that shelter. Children and parents walking to and from school. There must be control of that shelter. A fence from the Island Health chain link fence to the shelter driveway with a gate at the driveway would go a very long way to control the traffic on 9th. If a fence was put up, there could be no more traffic to the shelter from 9th Street. There would have to use the doors on 8th. That would give the workers at the shelter the control they need to control this terrible situation. I would also like to ask that you consider a camera at the back of the shelter, affixed to the back wall, high enough to see over the trees that are planted. That may discourage dealers from dealing on 9th. Thank you for listening to our situation. I sincerely hope we can solve this problem to everyone's satisfaction. Thank you. If there's any questions.
Thank you. Councillor Haggard.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I was at the AGM for the Past Shelter Society. Were you there as well? Were you the
Yes,
one
I
talking?
was.
Now, there was talk about putting up a fence and doing some extra cleanup. Has anything improved since you presented at the AGM in October?
It hasn't improved, but Mr. Hewitt has agreed to talk to BC Housing, yourself as council, to put up a fence and that. And that would make a huge difference for sure.
Okay.
But at present, no, nothing's changed.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Mealy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you for coming. I do apologize. That obviously isn't the most ideal situation for you as a homeowner, that's for sure. So we can appreciate that. Just my question is more to staff. This installation of fence, which obviously you've come with a great presentation today and some solutions, which a lot of people don't do, so we appreciate that. So an installation of cameras would not be on us, but a fence, it's not us as well? Would not be, sorry, may I?
Tim.
Madam Mayor, it wouldn't be the city's rule to install a fence on private property essentially, but we certainly could interact with the Port Alberni Shelter Society board and make that request, and together with them maybe petition for funding from BC Housing for that.
I believe it is a sort of a three-part thing. It's the shelter, it's BC Housing, and I'm not sure what involvement the city would have, but, you know, all together, hopefully you can do something.
Well, I think that's what it is. It's getting all the parties together, and if it's just a fence, and you're the resident there, so you would know more than I, obviously. I drive by all the time, but I don't live there. But if a fence is a simple solution, I want to call it a simple solution. I mean, I'd be all for it.
It is. It's a huge...
Then I would be all for it on our side of things. So,
Oh, perfect.
yeah.
Councillor Patola, did you have a comment? Okay, Councillor Solda.
Nope.
I agree with Councillor Mealy regarding the fence, and I would love to see the city work and talk with the shelter and get you a fence. When the shelter was first put in there, it was a parking issues that were coming up in mainly, and obviously it's not the parking that's the issue. So I'd like to see us move forward on that, Madam Mayor.
I'd like to, before we jump to the city builds a fence, I think we need to get a better understanding of this issue. I think we want to be cautious to assume what a solution might be or not be without having a full understanding of the issue. So I do note that we have Wes Hewitt from the Shelter Society here. Wes, if you would like to comment at all, you're more than welcome to. Dee, if you don't mind, we'll just give Wes an opportunity.
Sure.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. So, as you understand, Dee and her daughter were at our AGM. At that point in time, what we did is we talked about it, and I asked Dee to put it in writing, so I had something to go to BC Housing with. I think what we need today from Council is a letter of support. Now, long-term, this is not the be-all, end-all issue of dealing with it. Port Alberni, like many communities, face the exact same issues. What it comes down to is housing. Shelters are supposed to be short-term housing. In 2009, when I started, we housed people in 15 to 17 days. We now have people staying at the shelter that have been there for close to 2 years. Terrible, terrible, terrible. We're just warehousing people. So the city doesn't need more shelters. What the city needs is more housing, more supportive housing, so that we can cut down the numbers. Originally, the society, the new building, it was destined to have in the neighborhood of about 60 residents, short-term and long-term. What are we doing now between we opened up the building across the street and that? We're putting between 70 and 100 people in that neighborhood. We're overloading it. and that is a recipe for disaster. So what I would ask of council, that letter, we do have a community committee. Dee is now a member, will be a member of the committee. She's also now a member of the Port Alberni Shelter Society, her and her daughter. And I'd like to thank her for coming forward on this. So if you've got any questions, please feel free to ask.
Thank you. Follow-up questions? Okay. Oh, Councillor Patola.
Mr. Hewitt, I was wondering, you said that a fence isn't the be-all and end-all, and I don't think any of us would imagine that. But do you think, given that it's a specific request, that a fence would assist the other neighbors in the area with their interactions with pass?
Definitely. It'll change the traffic flow. That's the big part is when an architect designs a building, they don't always foresee traffic patterns of people. Otherwise, we would have had a cement walkway out on 9th if that's the way that we thought people were gonna go. If you look now, the grass is beat down to the point that it's dead on 9th because that is a popular route. They go from there to 7-Eleven to Tim Hortons to Panhandling on that corner. By putting the fence and restricting that, it'll change it, that they'll come out on 8th and hopefully disperse a little more or a little differently and use sidewalks and things rather than the grassed area.
Thank you. There's not a sidewalk along the front of 8th, though.
There is not, but the street is wide enough and it's gravel there that they tend to walk on the street.
Okay.
The gravel or grass between the gravel and the fence on 8th is only a couple feet wide.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Councillor Haggard.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. At the AGM, Mr. Hewitt, I suggested that you contact the Port Alberni Clean Team to help with the picking up the garbage in the area. Have you looked into that at all, or?
So we actually, BC Housing funds so many hours a week. We do have clients that walk the neighborhood in a 2-block radius to pick up garbage and refuse, but it's possibly not enough. Now, at one point in time, the city funded the clean team. They're no longer funded by the city. They have some external funding from another source. I would welcome that the city look into increasing the funding so that the clean team could actually work in our neighborhood. You know, make the project or make the services that they deliver a little bigger, because the need is there. It's not just our area, but if you go down 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, right up to 10th, between Redford and Argyle, that's an area that could be addressed.
Thank you. Councillor Patola.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm not sure that I can make a motion from the floor, can I? Oh, great, I can. Well, in that case, Madam Mayor, I'd like to make a motion that the city write a letter of support addressed to PASS and BC Housing, supporting the building of a fence to assist the peaceful enjoyment of the neighbors in the area of their residences. That's the motion. I just wanted to say.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Mealy.
So I know the city puts a lot of work into supporting people that need support, and that often ends up being one specific demographic, but I want all the citizens of Port Alberni to know that we want to support you wherever you live, in whatever housing, in whatever way we can, so that you enjoy being a part of this city.
Thank you. Okay, so motion is moved and seconded. Any other comments? Seeing none, on the motion, all in favor? Carried. Thank you.
And thank you very much for allowing me to speak.
Thank you. And thank you to Dee for coming forward, and just want to really recognize that the challenges that do exist for, residents in the area. We had a Chamber of Commerce meeting with some businesses surrounding the safe injector or overdose prevention site last year as well. And what we also heard, additional to the concerns and the challenges of being in the area, was the compassion that the residents have for the people who, do need to use the services, and the appreciation for the service that is provided. So I always appreciate when people come forward and say, hey, listen, it's difficult to be in this area with the issues that exist, but we recognize the importance of these issues and the importance of the services being offered. So so thank you for coming forward, and I know that many people who signed the petition share that message, that it is important to offer the services. We just, of course, want to make sure we're able to support the residents in the area as well, so that their peaceful enjoyment of property isn't lost. So thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, and moving on to unfinished business. Item number 1 from the Director of Corporate Services, City Works Facility Relocation.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So the report is being provided for council's information, and it stems from a question raised previously at a regular meeting, just following up on the status of the City Works facility. So the report speaks to background back in 2016, resulting from an emergency exercise where it was determined that perhaps the location of the City Works facility is in the tsunami zone and would not withstand an event of that magnitude along a tsunami and an earthquake. A preliminary report was done at the cost of $30,000, which then further spoke to the requirements for an additional report, as it was to look at 3 potential sites to relocate that facility. So this information provides that background for council's information. We should also further clarify that initially council had allocated $50,000 in 2020 for the report to be prepared, but then subsequently a recommendation from members of the committee had directed staff to remove that item from the financial plan at the time. And council may recall that we just landed in COVID-19 pandemic, and council was making a variety of decisions as it with financial impacts, and trying to soften those as we were experiencing that. So while council directed that that item be removed from the financial plan and reallocated to 2021, the reallocation never occurred. And that's basically the summary of that issue.
Thank you very much. Are there questions from council on this? Seeing no questions, this is just for information, unless council would like to give any direction. I would suggest that this come to budget 2023, which I think it likely will naturally. Tim, do we need to give any direction for that? Okay. So with no additional direction, it would just come to our budget considerations in 2023.
Motion to receive the report, Madam Mayor.
Okay, moved to receive, seconded by Councillor Douglas. On the motion, all in favor? Any opposed? Carried. Thank you. Okay. Moving on to item 2, which was a notice of motion that the regarding regular council and committee meeting of the whole times. Councillor Mealy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll make the motion that council direct staff to, I apologize. I guess it'd be my regular motion at this point. So I move that council direct staff that the regular council meeting time we move from 2 o'clock to 7 o'clock, and the committee the whole meeting from 4 o'clock to 6 o'clock, effective 2023.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Solda.
I'll talk on it a little bit, Madam Mayor. So I come from a different era where nighttime meetings were for the public, just because the majority, and I can't say that I know that the majority of people still work a 9 to 5, 8 to 4, 7 to 3. However, I do know that the people that I feel that I represent, especially people like my parents, have a hard time in coming to a daytime meeting. I know that I'm giving up a day's work every time to come here. I was there in the morning. I'll go at nighttime. Mondays are very busy for me, and I know there's a lot of people like that. So I just want to give it a chance to have a nighttime meeting. I know I've talked to some of the councillors, but not all, and I'm sure there won't be all agreement here, but I'd like to throw it forward and see if we can't change that for the community as a whole.
Thank you. Comments from council. Councillor Patola and then Councillor Haggard.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I was trying to find some statistics on when people think the best And what I found was that all people think the best at all different times. That individuals have their own selective chronophy, and mine is probably different than Councillor Mealy's. So for information purposes, I can tell council that I think well in the mornings, and after probably 6 o'clock at night, I can't drink enough coffee, it won't make a difference, and my mind is not here. So from my own personal point of view, in delivering services and representing the people of Port Alberni, you would get the best service from me by leaving the times as they are now. I say that understanding that I am just one individual, and there are probably other people that have different internal clocks. And I think that the goal of what times are picked should be primarily for the reason of making sure we get the best thinking out of the minds that sit here. That's not to say that we don't want the public to be involved, but I think that raises another issue about whether engagement at council meetings is effective, and if we can actually pursue an even better way of engaging the public of the city, whether it be changing council meetings or in addition to council meetings.
Thank you for those comments. Councillor Haggard.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I hate to say I agree with Councillor Patola, but I 100% agree. Doing my research on this same topic, I found that meetings held in the evening is the least productive time of the day to hold a meeting. Council is tasked with making very difficult decisions for the community, not only for now, but for in the future. So we have to, staff and council have to be at their best. My best is during the day, not in the evening. And if we remember back 4 years ago, before we did change our council time, I remember sitting here at 10 o'clock at night. There wasn't one person in the gallery. Staff and council were all glassy-eyed because it's 10 o'clock at night, and you want to join in the debate and the discussion, but you don't want to prolong the meeting anymore because it's 10 o'clock at night. And also, council meeting did talk about shift workers, and at that time, there was a big push to change meeting times so that shift workers could go to the meetings. So I think we have to think about that too. And for somebody who wants to come into the meeting, technology is different now than when it was when you were previously a councillor. It's very easy to access the meetings. They're live streamed on the council's website. If you're happy to be working, you can watch the meeting. It's recorded. You can watch the meeting on your laptop or your computer whenever you want to. So there is lots of access. There's lots of opportunities for the public to ask questions if they have questions without actually being at the meeting. I think that's all I have to say. Okay, one more thing. I'm kind of on thinking that this council might approve this motion, so I'm wondering if we do decide to go to evening meetings, is there a possibility to have a 6 o'clock start time instead of 7 o'clock? So that way we'd be gone by 9 instead of 10.
Thank you. Councillor Douglas.
Thank you. I want to particularly thank Councillor Mealy for bringing this forward because there has been mention over the past term that we didn't speak openly and disagree on topics in front of the general public. And I'm going to disagree with Councillor Mealy 100%. In a very friendly way, though. But I do welcome the opportunity to have a good, healthy discussion in front of the public, so it's really good for us. When I was on council previously, we had evening meetings, and there was always a bit of a bouncing ball as to whether, you'd schedule a meeting in the evening, nobody would show up. You'd do something in the day, nobody would show up. I worked shift work, so I was working in evenings, had to take time off to come into council meetings. And at that time, we didn't have the technological tools that we have now in terms of participating online, in terms of tracking issues. If you missed a meeting, you can go back now and track issues for particular dates and times and follow the dialogue of the council at the time. So we're actually a lot farther ahead than we were at that time. So I'd quite frankly like to give the current scheduling a shot for, maybe readdress this in a couple of years, halfway through the term. You're very welcome to do that, but I'd like to give it a chance and see how it works. There was one particular item I did have brought to my attention, which is a bit of a side issue, but if we could possibly improve our online even a little bit more by introducing the concept of virtual questioning, so that a person could submit a question during a council meeting and possibly have it addressed during that council meeting, so the person could go back and track that. But all in all, I'd really like to try the current status quo and see how that works for the next couple of years. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Mealy, and then I'm going to get Councillor Dame and Councillor Solda to speak.
I was going to say you can let the first-time speakers first if you like, but that's okay. So I appreciate your comments, of course, with respect, and I truly appreciate the comments, and I will disagree. And the reason why is I'm not thinking about my performance. I'm thinking about the people who put us in these seats and how they can access us better. With respect, I mean, I can drink 4 cups of coffee and I'd be all over the place. But I mean, if it's like being a first-line hockey player or a fourth-line hockey player, when you're told to go out there and do the job, you go out there and do the job. So my reasoning was not based on our personal ability to do the job at nighttime or daytime or anything like that, because I know that if it's a 7 o'clock meeting or a 9 o'clock meeting or a 10 o'clock meeting, like I get changed in the bathroom and I go. That's just what happened today, because it's got to happen, right? So that is why I brought it forward. It wasn't because I think that, we think better at nighttime, we think better at daytime. It's more along the lines of what do the people who put us in these seats, what do these people who pay our salaries want? And that's what and I say this with respect, again, through the election. That was the only thing I talked about, other than, I don't make promises, but I'd like to bring this forward. And I was elected on that one issue, perhaps. So I just want us to be open, and that was a discussion over a long period of time, and whether it be fair or not over the last council. But I just feel that, I wasn't worried about my own personal, and I do appreciate that comment of, I'm not a morning person, I guess that's what it is, right? But more along the lines of just, the people put us here, and they want us to be accessible, and so I'd like us to try to be more accessible in that manner. That's all it is. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Mealy. Councillor Dame.
Thank you. I guess it seems like we're all having a say. So my thoughts are that for my personal preference, I prefer to have my evenings with my family as much as I possibly can. And so I appreciate that I can consider this a part of my day job schedule. However, if I was confident that a majority of councillors and staff, and especially the public, preferred in the evening, I would be happy to sacrifice that and understand that that's just, the sacrifices that come with the role. However, I don't think that I have heard opinions on both sides, and clearly, other councillors have stated their opinion today. So I'm actually a little bit uncertain as to exactly whether or not it would prove public engagement, and whether or not that is something that people are asking for. So as it stands, I'm pretty indifferent in terms of whether it would benefit others or myself more. I don't know. So I know what I would rather, and I'm uncertain of what the greater majority would rather. So that's where I'm at.
Thank you, Councillor Dame. Councillor Solda.
Well, Madam Mayor, I've done both, and apparently I'm going to have lots of time, so it doesn't matter starting in December. And I can come at night, I can come at day. I get up at 5 in the morning, so it doesn't matter. Every morning I get up at 5, so I'm okay with either way. And maybe there is a 2-year, we try it for a couple of years, and then we do an online survey, and anybody on our website, and see how the public feels, and take it from there after 2 years. It's just that, we can't have it both ways. We have to make a decision. I know that. So there you go.
Okay, thank you everyone for the comments. A few things that I would like to say. First off, when we decided to switch to 2 p.m. meetings, it was because it suited the schedules of every councillor on our last council. And we did say at the time, if in the future something changed and it didn't, that we would bring it back for consideration. Because first and foremost, I believe that our role here is to conduct the business of the city, and what we need for that is for the 7 of us to all be able to attend. So my first and primary concern is Councillor Mealy wanting to make sure that you are able to attend, because, and I know that you've made that commitment. However, it wasn't just being able to attend, but the recognition that people, being a city councillor does not pay a full-time wage, and that you can't necessarily always take time off of your job, and you shouldn't necessarily be expected to. So my first concern really is more around, your work schedule. Go ahead.
No, thank you, Madam Mayor. Either way, and I just want to be clear, either way, I work for a really good guy, a great boss who has allowed me the time to change my schedule. So again, it's not about me. I can make the meetings happen. That's not why I put this motion forward. I just felt like the majority of the people I talk to, the normal, regular old Port Albernians that come around, and the retirees, the seniors as well, just said, hey, it'd be really nice, really nice to watch it on TV at 7 o'clock, or it'd be really nice to be do my stuff during the day and then be able to attend a meeting, and that's all. So no, on a personal note, no, I'm gonna make this work no matter what, so I appreciate it.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that clarification, because I do think that that's really important, and I think that when we run for council, it should not be something that has to, compromise our existing day-to-day jobs and lives. I also want to say that I'm a person who has never worked a 9-to-5 job in my life. I don't think I'm capable of a 9-to-5 job, but my schedule has always, I think I'm an example of a person who maybe has been less available in the evenings or worked evenings, and right now I'm available anytime, so that's not a consideration. But I do think it's important to recognize that our community has shifted, the workforce has shifted significantly over the last few years, and the 9-to-5 job that used to be the most common is not necessarily anymore, because that world has changed a bit. There was some comments made earlier around public engagement, and if, city council meetings I think we all agree we want our city council meetings to be accessible to the public. I believe they are incredibly accessible to the public. They are stored, online for anyone to watch anytime, recognizing that not everybody, is maybe their comfort level is going on YouTube. I think that what we're talking about, though, is not the accessibility of it, but the opportunity to engage. And I think that what we can do is really refocus on how to get more engagement at the right meetings. And I would argue that the right meetings for engagement are our committee of the whole meetings, where we are shaping some of council's bigger decisions. And we don't necessarily use those super effectively right now. We're not using them even regularly. We haven't for the last couple of years. I would like to see us go back to kind of what the intent of those original meetings was when we created them in, I think, 2016. And that was that when a big issue was coming to council, rather than just a report from staff and then a recommended motion with debate and discussion then, and then after the fact we kind of hear other input from the community, because then it gets reported in the newspaper, and then we kind of hear things that we go, oh, maybe we should have thought of that, but we didn't, because we didn't have time in our discussion. Community wasn't aware we were having that conversation, because they're not following our council agendas, so they're not aware until after the fact. And I think those committee of the whole meetings are really our opportunity to have community engagement, to slow down our decision making, to make sure that we can get members of the public there, that they're able to engage, because that's the format of the meeting. They can get up, they can speak. It's much less structured than this. And then the media reports on it, and we get additional feedback from members of the community before it comes to a regular meeting of council. So if we are working on the assumption that the average person works 9 to 5, which I don't agree with personally, but recognizing that a lot of people do, and maybe that is still the majority of people in our community, then I would like to propose an amendment that we move our committee of the whole meetings, or that we keep the part about moving our committee of the whole meetings to 6 p.m., but that we keep our regular meetings of council at 2 p.m. I will move that as an amendment if someone would like to second. Okay, seconded by Councillor Dame. And the reason for that is I think that committee of the whole meetings are where we need to have engagement with the community. That's where we should slow down. That's where we should have that conversation. And I think that meetings of council are to get the business of the city done. And I personally am hearing from council that we will be most effective during the day for that. Councillor Haggard.
I was wondering if I could ask their corporate officer to inform the public on how they can ask questions of council through email, or who they can contact, or what's the email address, so that they can ask those questions if they can't be at a council meeting.
Thank you, through the chair. There's a number of ways residents or the community generally can submit questions. They can write to mayor and council at any time, and if it's received by the Wednesday at noon prior to a council meeting, and if requiring action by council, it can find its way on the agenda. As council's aware, public has the opportunity, if they're here, to engage directly. They can request to be a formal delegation to council. Again, we will provide the form that they are required to complete. Then they will actually find their way on the agenda. Again, all the deadlines are the same, the Wednesday, noon prior. We have in the past allowed some engagements when it is committee of the whole meetings, specifically during financial planning process time, where there has been that virtual engagement that council has facilitated in those circumstances. But generally, any resident who has a question of council, if their letter's addressed as such, and if it is looking for action required, it will find its way on a council agenda.
Thank you. Other comments? Councillor Solda.
Is there any way if the public is watching, they could ask, maybe three questions? Somebody could come in and ask questions, and it could be read out at council meetings instead of writing a letter?
We currently do not have the ability to facilitate that engagement on a regular basis. You may recall we are still waiting for equipment that will create this space in a hybrid virtual structure, at which time you could accommodate something like that. We're just not physically equipped at this point.
I mean, I think that requires a change of our procedures bylaw, which is something that council wanted to review in early 2023 anyways, because I think it could be as simple as someone just sending an email to an email that would be checked at one point in the council meeting. So I think there's ways that we could accommodate that. And I think it's just important to note that we have, like, back to kind of the conversation around the importance of committee of the whole and the engagement there. We have people in our audience today who may want to make comments on this, but they will not have the opportunity to make comments on this before we vote on it and make a decision, because that is what our procedures bylaw currently allow. The place for engagement needs to happen prior to this conversation. And right now, with our structure, we don't really have that built in. So I think that looking for more opportunities to bring items of significance to the community, to committee of the whole meetings, will have a lot of value. We could be having this conversation with input from the community rather than the 7 of us only sitting here wondering what people in the audience think. Any other comments? Okay. So we have an amendment on the floor, which is to basically strike the committee, or strike the moving of regular council meetings time, and just keep it, I guess it would read then, that council directs staff to consider amending the committee of the whole meeting time from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. effective 2023. I would take out the word consider.
Thank you,
Councilor
Madam Mayor.
Wheeler.
No, just really quickly, I'd respectfully ask our votes be recorded. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you. Okay. Does anyone need clarification on the amendment? Okay. So for anyone who hasn't done a recorded vote before, basically I'm going to call out, starting with Councillor Douglas, and you'll vote out loud, and then our corporate officer will record that. Councillor Dame.
Sure. I was just wondering if we want to, I don't know if it needs to be added to the movement or the amendment, but Councillor Solda's suggestion that we consider having a set time period where we will then review this potentially with a public poll, or some way of allowing the public to have some input in this.
I think we could, if this amendment passes or fails, because that's, I would say, separate, we could add another amendment following this to basically review a year from now, or 2 years, or whatever, whoever wants to move it. Okay. Seeing no additional comments on the amendment, Councillor Douglas. If you could use your microphone.
I was reading. So just to confirm, we're going to be retaining the regular council meetings at the regular time and moving the committee of the whole to 6 p.m. Is that correct?
Correct. So the motion would read that council directs staff to amend the committee of the whole meeting time from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. effective 2023.
And this is a friendly amendment to Councillor Mealy's original.
This is a full amendment.
It's not that friendly.
It's a
not that-
full amendment.
It's not friendly.
So a friendly amendment does not need to be moved
Okay.
and seconded. It's just accepted. This is a full amendment that we will vote on.
Okay. Yes, I'm in favor of this.
Thank you. Councillor Patola.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And just to confuse and clarify even further, this is now a vote on the amendment, and then once the amendment is voted on, then the motion will be voted on.
Correct.
I am against the amendment.
Thank you. Councillor Solda.
Against.
Thank you. I'm in favor.
I support the motion. Or
I'm in
Councillor Dean.
favor.
I'm against the motion, Madam Mayor.
Okay. So the amendment passed. Okay. So now we have an amended motion on the floor, which is that council directs staff to amend the committee of the whole meeting time from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. effective 2023. Would anyone like to comment or make amendments? Councillor Mealy. Okay. Councillor Dame.
Sorry.
You're going to add to the end of it, I think.
Yes, okay, right. I'm caught up. So I would like to add an amendment to the motion on Councillor Solda's suggestion that we review this we want to do yearly, in a year's time, and perhaps staff could look into some sort of way of engaging the public, whether via poll, online, or something, in order to see what, that wasn't a very official sounding amendment.
That's okay. So I would suggest that maybe the amendment is following the regular motion of moving the time to bring it back to council at the end of 2023 for a review, engaging the public. Does that sound acceptable for what you're trying to get at for the amendment?
Sounds
Okay.
good.
Is there a seconder for that amendment?
Oh, Madam Mayor, just for clarification, I am the original mover of the motion. Can I consider that friendly?
I would say that's friendly.
I
Yeah.
can make, so I will, agree. I agree to
Great.
that amendment, so.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so we have a slightly amended motion now, friendly amendment. Any comments on this piece?
Madam Mayor, could we read the whole?
That council directs staff to amend the committee of the whole meeting time from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. effective 2023 with a review to be done at the end of 2023. Okay, thank you. Okay. Comments on the motion, because this is a friendly amendment, so we're not going to vote on it.
Friendly amendment's fine, but I
Friendly
ask our
amendment's
votes be
fine.
recorded for this other motion. Thank you.
Great. Any other comments on the general motion then? Okay. Votes to be recorded, so I'll go back to Councillor Douglas.
I'm in favor.
Councillor Patola.
Opposed.
Councillor Solda.
That's a hard one. I'll go in favor.
Councillor Haggard. Oh, sorry, in favor. Councillor Haggard.
I support the motion.
Councillor Dame.
I also support the motion.
Councillor Mealy.
I do not support the amended motion. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Then it is carried, and that is the full motion. Okay. Thank you, everyone, and thank you, Councillor Mealy. We're all still friendly. Okay, and moving on to the next item, a notice of motion that the United Nations Declaration of the Rights of Indigenous People, introduced by Councillor Patola.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move that council consider directing staff to prepare a report outlining actions taken by the city to date as it relates to the application of UNDRIP, the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Solda. Would you like to speak to it?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. I just noted that Vancouver took an interesting position on this just before their council changed, and they accepted a report that had been previously prepared, and that report was requested in 2018. So, and that's in reaction to the UNDRIP declaration, which was, I think, 2011. It just keeps going back further and further and further. And as I became more and more aware of the implications of these declarations, I thought that it would be important for the city of Port Alberni to follow suit, although do it in our own way. And not knowing what had occurred so far, before we do so, it'd be good to bring us, the entire council and city, up to speed on how far we've gone so we know how much further we have to go.
Thank you. I'd like to just add a friendly amendment that council consider directing staff to prepare a report outlining actions taken to date as it relates to the application of UNDRIP and reconciliation. I know that that's general, but I think some of the steps that we've taken are significant, but they may not directly relate to UNDRIP. So I think a broader report would be helpful.
With consent.
Thank you. Any other comments on this? Okay, Councillor Douglas.
Yeah, just hesitate to use the words "get staff to deliver a report" because I know much how time is consumed sometimes, and it's very easy for us to say those 3 or 4 words. I was assuming that in our ongoing orientation package that we've done very little of so far, that this type of information would be revealed and be forthcoming. So I just think we should be cautious as to whether we send staff out to, while people are waiting for they're getting their building permits and stuff like that, for staff to be preoccupied in preparing some sort of massive report on something that we're going to be learning about hopefully in the next 2 or 3 months as a new council. That's just my comment. I'm very much in favor of the essence behind the motion.
Thank you. I just want to add that I think we should always be cautious about asking for reports and, the time commitment that takes, and make sure that we only request reports, not just for anything that comes up, but for items that are, of importance and current to council that we're going to actually action. So I think your comments around orientation are valid. However, I think this is a bit more specific. So Tim, you could probably speak to just staff capacity to take this on. This probably could be done as a part of orientation, but I don't think that it's harmful staff-wise or time-wise to put it in a report.
Madam Mayor, I appreciate council being mindful of finite staff resources, and they're really your resources available to you. And if you fully task them before you've identified your strategic priorities, then you've really only severed your own ability to go forward. I think this is prudent, and we've already started to work on framing what that looks like because we anticipated this motion. And staff are confident we can get you something in January on this.
Thank you. Councillor Haggard.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm just wondering, what's the intent of this report? Is it just for information to bring you up to date, or what would we be doing with this report? I just need some clarification.
Councillor Patola.
Thank you. Through Madam Mayor to Councillor Haggard. My intent for this report would be actionable, and I fully intend that I will be making further motions to move the city further ahead through the process of reconciliation and adherence to UNDRIP and adherence to the report on reconciliation and adherence to the report and suggestions from the MMIGW. I think the city needs to recognize that we have neighbors, that we should be allies, and that we live in one community together. And I know the city has already taken steps in that direction, which I applaud. And I would just like to see that further steps are taken, so it's not just a step, but a journey.
Thank you. I would just comment that we do recognize we have neighbors, our allies, and our all neighbors are all live in the city together. But I also think that this is a great opportunity to provide background on probably the most important issue that exists in our community. So I think this is a good opportunity for all of council to come to the same kind of place for knowledge of what has happened, and then look at opportunities for the future for action as well. Okay, any further comments? Seeing none, then on the motion, all in favor? None opposed? Carried. Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to staff reports, and we have from the Director of Development Services, 25-year Employee Recognition Award.
So I am super pleased to be in front of council today to recognize Cara Foden for 25 years of service to the city of Port Alberni. Cara started in the city in 1997. In the planning department, which is now the development services department. Cara's been the city's planning technician for her career with the city, and over the years, Cara has, and I say with no measure of thing, probably created hundreds, if not 1,000 different maps on my own request on occasion, and more public hearing notices than can be counted. Kara has been involved in all major planning projects, you know, over the last 25 years in the city in a variety of different ways. And I really can't speak more highly of her. And it really is my honor and privilege to invite her up for Kara to receive her 25-year service gift from the mayor and the city residents.
Perfect. 1, 2, 3.
Thank you, Scott, and thank you, Kara. I know you just ran away, but okay, she had to go to work. Fair enough. On behalf of council, we really want to thank you for your service to the city. We're actually very proud to have so many 25 and 30-year employees. So, anyways, thank you very much. Okay, and we'll move on to item number 2, accounts. Was somebody elected today chair of the audit committee? Councillor Solda.
Madam Mayor, I move the certification of the Director of Finance dated November 28, 2022 be received and checks numbered 151738 to 151825 and inclusive in payment of accounts totaling $1,213,840.89 be approved.
Thank you, Councillor Solda.
Second.
Seconded by Councillor Patola. Any questions or comments? Seeing none on the motion, all in favor? Carried, none opposed. Thank you. And item number 3 from the Manager of Economic Development, we have the quarterly development report.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, councillors. I'm using the opportunity of the third quarter report to provide council with a bit of a perspective on economic development work. As you've gathered from the report, Council's strategic plan sets goals and strategies for work on the economy. Specifics are left up to the Economic Development Manager, who consults with the CAO if an initiative might be seen as straying from the plan. I'd like to make a brief comment about each of the sectors we are working in. Employment in the blue economy has grown from 235 to 400 people over the last 3 years, thanks largely to Canadian Maritime Engineering, Canadian Seafood, and the Coastal Restoration Society, which I'll refer to as CRS. That employment should continue to grow as CRS alone anticipates being at 300 employees within the next 5 years. And they have over 60 million in grant applications out awaiting response. Both the federal and provincial governments are increasing their allocations to the blue economy and to ocean protection in particular. So we are reasonably confident in this sector. However, we are also working to find revenue streams from the materials CRS recovers or harvests to reduce the reliance on government grants, and we are also working to assist other companies in the blue economy. Moving on to the Innovation Economy Initiative, our 1 day per week project manager is Rihanna Miller. As mentioned in the report, she's done great work on the food security, safety, and supply fronts, along with representatives from several other local food groups. A lot of their collective efforts have gone into supporting the Port Authority, who is doing a great job ensuring the commercial kitchen in the Dock Plus gets better known, is more fully used in its role as a small business incubator and addresses concerns in the food space. Beginning in January, the Innovation Economy Initiative will be focused on the blue economy and the forest industry. With respect to the circular economy, I'd like to give a shout out to Robin Miles and Andy Richards of Dog Mountain Brewing, who responded within minutes to our email requesting a business volunteer to undergo a scrutiny of their operations for this initiative. The report showed that they were already more efficient than the industry average for kilowatt hours of energy consumed per liter of beer brewed. So hats off to them. 41 additional measures to reduce CO2 and divert waste from the landfill were identified across 8 different areas of circularity, and Dog Mountain Brewing has already implemented several of those. A few of the measures recommended by the consultant require action by the city and or other services in the community, so we will be looking at those. The outdoor recreation sector opportunity is huge, and I applaud the groundbreaking work done by the Kootenay Outdoor Recreation Enterprise Society. Mayor Don McCormick of Kimberley told me that he has, quote, hundreds of economic development ideas cross his desk each year, and this is the only one he's absolutely no doubts about. It's also a perfect fit for Port Alberni and the islands. I intend that it will become another pay-to-play model, such has been used in Vicita's tech attraction and circular economy initiatives, and I'm also intent on having us acknowledged as the champion for the islands region, in part because I'd like to see one or more gear manufacturers on a portion of the former SOMAS lands or elsewhere in the city. Jumping to the fourth quarter focus, I'd like to note that each of the probable allocations for those line items have been discussed with the Director of Finance and the CAO and are in the draft budget. Finally, I would like to take this opportunity to thank Melissa Tardif for her work as Economic Development Assistant over the past many years. At a staff meeting early this summer discussing the challenges facing our Development Services Department under their staggering workload, I suggested that Melissa be moved under their wing so long as the business licensing aspect of her work also went with her. I'm hoping to be able to rely on the consulting and contract services allocations in the economic development budget for assistance in future, so this is an early budget plug for that line item. Thank you. Are there any questions?
Thank you very much. Pat, questions or comments? Councillor Haggard.
Pat, I just want to congratulate you on how your perception has changed on how to grow the local economy. I know in councils past, they directed you to attract the next big thing that's going to save this community, and we've helped you change your focus, and you're having huge successes in that. So congratulations on what you do, and thank you for doing it.
And thanks for your direction.
Thank you. Other comments? Okay, well, I just want to really recognize and celebrate the work happening in the community around the blue economy. And I know that we've had some really fantastic meetings and great connections. And I feel like there's a momentum building. So really excited. And I know that that's really as a result of you spearheading and working with companies like Cascadia and Coastal Restoration and others. So really excited about that. And especially now that we have the opportunity, of the SOMAS lands and other potential spaces, excited to see what happens and the progress that continues to be made there. So thank you. Okay, seeing no other questions or comments, this report is for information only, so no additional direction. Thanks, Pat.
Thank you.
We'll move on to bylaws. Item number 1 from the Director of Finance. we have the waterworks and sewer bylaw amendments, and this is just the final reading. Are there any questions on this before we? Okay, Councillor Mealy, would you like to read these?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move that the City of Port Alberni Waterworks Bylaw number 5062/2022 be now finally adopted, signed by the Mayor or Corporate Officer, and numbered 5062.
Seconded by Councillor Solda. Seeing no comments on the motion, all in favor? Carried, none opposed. Thank you. Continue.
I move that the City of Port Alberni Sewer Connection and Regulation Bylaw number 5063/2022 be now finally adopted, signed by the Mayor and the Corporate Officer, numbered 5063.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Douglas. Seeing no comments on the motion, all in favor? Carried, none opposed. Thank you. We'll move on to item number 2 from the Director of Finance, and I think we have the Deputy Director of Finance here today. City of Port Alberni 2022 to 2026 Financial Plan Amendments. Welcome.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So the purpose of the amendment is to consider 3 readings of the Cities of Port Alberni's 2022 to 2026 Financial Plan Amendment Bylaw. So Section 165-1 of the Community Charter provides authority for the city's 5-year financial plan. It allows the council to amend the financial plan by bylaw at any time in order to provide changes that occur during the year. The city's practice, which is common among municipalities, is to review the budget actual amounts for revenues and expenditures or capital project changes throughout the year, and to amend the city's 5-year financial plan towards the end of the year, so the plan accurately reflects budget projections for operation and capital. So the amendments noted in the report below have been approved by council in the form of resolution made throughout the 2022 calendar year and are included here for council's reference. There are no financial impacts of the changes to general operating expenses. They all net to 0 for the 2022 year. There is also no tax impact on any of the amendments.
Thank you. Are there questions from council? Okay, seeing none, are there any questions on process, or does everyone have an understanding of why we amend the financial plan now? It's clear for everyone? Councillor Mealy.
No, that's okay, Madam Mayor. Just if I'm not mistaken, it's the mere fact that we're legislated to not have a deficit of any kind, so we have to make sure our books balances at the end of the year.
Yeah, and just for changes that have been made and approved throughout the year, doing them all at once. So I just wanted to make sure for the new councillors that there's an understanding of that process. Okay, Councillor Dame, would you like to read the motions?
Of course, Madam Mayor. I move that the City of Port Alberni 2022 to 2026 Financial Plan Amendment Bylaw number 5045-1 2022 be now introduced and read a first time.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Mealy. Seeing no comments on the motion, all in favor? Carried, none opposed. Do you want to continue?
I move that City of Port Alberni 2022 to 2026 Financial Plan Amendment Bylaw number 5045-1 2022 be read a second time.
Thank you. Is seconded by Councillor Douglas. Seeing no comments on the motion, all in favor? Carried, none opposed.
And I move that City of Port Alberni 2022 to 2026 Financial Plan Amendment Bylaw number 5045-1 2022 be read a third time.
Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Solda. Any comments? Seeing none on the motion, all in favor? None opposed, carried. Thank you. Okay, lovely, and thank you, Roslyn. Moving on to item number 3, also from the Deputy Director of Finance, the Canada Community Building Reserve Fund Bylaw.
I know it's a handful to word. Thank you, Madam Mayor. So today I am bringing forth the establishment of the Canada's Community Building Reserve Fund by bylaw in consideration for 3 readings. Currently, we do have a gas tax grant. It's typically referred to as, or a gas tax reserve. We actually don't have a reserve set up, but we always commonly refer to it as the gas tax reserve. So just to give you guys a little bit of background, I do want to make this a standalone reserve. The gas tax funds come from the Canada Community Building Fund. And these funds we receive predictably each year. They're long-term, they're stable funds, and are commonly received by local governments in BC. They can be used for investment in many different types of things: capacity building, material enhancement, construction, and renewal of infrastructure. So the City of Port Alberni uses community building funds within our annual budget to meet our capital work requirements. And as a part of the Canada Community Building Fund Agreement, the city is required to report annually on all projects by the grant monies received to ensure eligibility and proper use of the funds. So currently the funds are sitting in our Capital Works Reserve Fund and are being used as intended, along with other revenues and grants received for the same type of infrastructure or capital projects. Annual reporting must be completed and reserve reconciliations must be undertaken to kind of get a recorded balance of what sits in our gas tax funds and our capital works reserve. In consultation with MNP, the city's auditor, and through improvements to the city's financial reporting process, we have determined it is best practice and best practice dictates that we create the separate Canada Community Building Fund Reserve. So we would like to separate the Capital Works Reserve and the Canada Community Building Fund Reserve and streamline administration and management reporting of the two reserves. This will provide transparent balances and assist us with decision-making in the future.
Thank you. Are there any questions on this? The report is clear. Okay. Councillor Haggard, would you like to read the motion?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to move that the City of Port Alberni Canada Community Building Reserve Fund bylaw number 5073, 2022 be introduced and read a first time.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Mealy. Any comments or questions on this? Seeing none, on the motion, all in favor? Carried. Thank you. None opposed.
I'd like to move that City of Port Alberni Canada Community Building Reserve Fund bylaw number 5073, 2022 be read a second time.
Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Dame. Seeing no comments on the motion, all in favor? Carried. None opposed.
I'd like to move that City of Port Alberni Canada Community Building Reserve Fund bylaw number 5073, 2022 be read a third time.
Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Douglas. Seeing no comments on the motion, all in favor? Carried. None opposed. Thank you, Roslyn.
Thank you.
We'll move on to item number 4 from the Director of Development Services and Deputy CAO. We have a development application and zoning bylaw amendment for 5801 and 5837 Compton Road.
So thank you, Mayor and Council. So this might be a bit of a repeat for some of the former council, but did want to go through this for new council members. So this application is to rezone 2 properties, 3801 and 3837 Compton Road. The applicant is requesting to rezone these properties from RR2 semi-rural residential and P2 parks and recreation zone to for a portion of the property to go to our R1 single-family residential, and for the balance of the site to stay parks and recreation. This rezoning request is in alignment with the official community plan designations on the property. As part of this process, it is within 800 meters of the highway, so the Ministry of Transportation will require to be approve these zoning amendments, and they provided that they have no concerns in regards to this bylaw. It is in order to potentially subdivide the property to single-family lots. Essentially, this property is surrounded by single-family homes with Lugren Creek to the east with a small ravine, and then a modular mobile home park on the other side of Lugren Creek Ravine. Staff view this proposal as essentially an infill development of a single-family neighborhood. The subdivision would require some additional site servicing along Compton Road and some other infrastructure that would be confirmed with the engineering department as part of a preliminary layout review for the subdivision. I do want to note that this portion of Compton Road is dead end and it's not constructed to the east of this property. There's no plans to extend it because that would go into the Lugan Creek Ravine area, which we would not want to entertain. And although these properties are covered by our floodplain bylaw that requires a construction level of 3.65 meters for habitable space, all the property exceeds that elevation, and the portions of the property that are looking to be rezoned and subdivided range from 16.4 to 16.9 meters. So well in excess of what our floodplain bylaw regulations would require. When council considered first and second reading of this zoning amendment, it was recommended by staff that the public hearing be waived, as it is in alignment with the official community plan, and this is something that is permitted under the Local Government Act. Council did agree to waive the public hearing process on this. As part of that, public notice is still given that a public hearing has been waived and the public has an opportunity to comment. And that involves putting language on the public notice sign on the property, ads in the paper, and notices were sent out to all residents and property owners within that area. And unless something came in today, we've received no comments from the public on this proposed rezoning amendment. As I had indicated, the applicant is proposing to rezone a portion of this property from to single-family residential, with the remainder staying in the parks and open space zone, and that is in compliant with the official community plan guidance for this area. And staff are recommending that council consider third reading at this time, and I'd be pleased to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. Councillor Mealy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, through you to Mr. Smith. So the map's not up there anymore, but that's okay. I know the answer. I just want to make sure for the public. So there, where it says unconstructed road, there is a trail there down to the Lugan Creek Ravine, and where you can access Mary Street from there. That won't be touched, correct?
Yeah, it's not a formal trail. It's people are using it. So yeah, that is on public road dedication. So not part of any development proposal.
Thank you. Councillor Patola.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, through you to Mr. Smith. The zoning that it currently has is RM2, and am I correct that it's kind of an anomaly in the area, that the rest of it is RR1?
Yeah, most of it is actually R1, single-family residential. It's RR1, which is our rural residential. So essentially, that's a large lot size.
Okay.
So you under the current zone, your minimum lot size is essentially, almost 1,200 square meters or 12,000 square feet, whereas in the single-family residential zone that's proposed, it's about half that. It's 600 square meters or 6,500 square feet. So that would allow potential subdivision of this property greater than what is currently permitted. But there are some that are in the RR1 zone still. There's some larger parcels here, but most of it is single family in nature.
Thank you.
The R1 zone.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, seeing none. Councillor Solda, would you like to read this motion?
Madam Mayor, I move that the zoning map amendment number 55, 5801, and 5837 Compton Road, Sisson, bylaw number 5065 be read a third time.
Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Douglas. Seeing no additional comments on the motion, all in favor? Carried, none opposed. Thank you. Item number 5 from the Manager of Planning, we have proposed zoning bylaw amendment for 2244 Mallory Drive.
Good afternoon. I'm going to go through the presentation that I did on October the 24th in a simpler fashion for those that are sitting new at the table. And I've combined items 5 and 6 together because they're all within the same block, same plan, same zoning going from R1 to R2. And so I will go through that. And the purpose of today's presentation is consideration of third reading. So the background is that on October 24th, Council gave first and second readings to the bylaws 5066 for 2242 Mallory Drive and 5067 2272 Mallory Drive. Council waived the public hearing as per Section 462, Section 464, subsection 2 of the Local Government Act, and notice was given as per Section 465 and 466 of the Local Government Act. Before you here is bylaw number 5066, 2244 Mallory Drive. And on this slide, you will see the shot of the subject lands and where it lies within the area. Then you will see the zoning map that shows that the uses around this are R1, was mostly R1, and that the lot is being proposed to be rezoned to R2. And on the far right picture is actually the layout of the building envelope to support a duplex. This all aligns with the zoning of the R2 zone, and this also aligns with the OCP land use. It would allow up to 40% of the lands to be developed, and this supports a duplex. The same process for bylaw number 5067 for 2272 Mallory Drive, again showing the location further down the road, and it too meets the requirements of the R2 zone. Site coverage is limited to 40%. The building envelope proves out that it can build a duplex, again aligns with the OCP land use designation. Communications sign was posted on the two properties as per development applications bylaw number 4614, and had the modification placed on it that the public hearing was waived, and provided comments to contact the Development Services Department or corporate, and 33 notices were mailed out within 75 meters. 2 notices were placed in the local paper, informing the public they could comment. In this process, engineering has requested a Section 219 covenant to restrict vehicle access from Plywood Drive. So all vehicle access would be from Mallory Drive, and that's due to various engineering requirements on that in regards to sighting, grading, standard of road, and vehicle truck traffic on that, which is considered to be a safety concern. That's why engineering is requesting for it to be on Mallory Drive. The applicant is aware of that, and the houses or the duplexes are designed in that manner as well. Oh, there we go. Just does not like me. Staff is recommending to move forward with the third reading, as well as also the Section 219 covenant. And council has their options not to move forward or to give staff other direction. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Okay, thank you very much. Any questions from council? Okay. Seeing none, Councillor Patola, would you like to read these motions?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move that zoning map amendment number 56, parentheses 2244 Mallory Drive, Saywell Developments, in parentheses, bylaw number 5066, be read a third time.
Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Solda. Any comments? Seeing none on the motion, all in favor? Carried. Thank you.
And I further move that a Section 219 covenant be registered on title to restrict vehicle access from Plywood Drive prior to council's consideration for final adoption of bylaw number 5066.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Mealy. Seeing no comments on the motion, all in favor?
Madam Mayor, do you
Any
wish me to
opposed?
continue?
Yes, please. Carried.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I also move that zoning map amendment number 57, parentheses 2272 Mallory Drive, Saywell Developments, in parentheses, bylaw number 5067, be read a third time.
Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Solda. Seeing no comments on the motion, all in favor? Carried. None opposed.
I further move that a Section 219 covenant be registered on title to restrict vehicle access from Plywood Drive prior to council's consideration for final adoption of bylaw number 5067.
Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Douglas. Seeing no comments on the motion, all in favor? Carried, none opposed. Thank you. Thank you, Mary Ann. And number 7 from planner number 2. Welcome, Brian. Thank you. Proposed zoning bylaw amendment for 3911 and 3909 Cedar Street.
All right, thank you, Madam Mayor. I do appreciate being called planner number 2, but it's creative, but I'll respond to just planner 2 from today forward. I do respond to that as well. So this application, as you read out, it applies to the properties at 3911 and 3909 Cedar Street, zoning map amendment number 59, and amending bylaw number 5072, and the applicant is Dion Hopkins. So the intent of this application is to rezone the properties at these addresses from R1 single-family residential to R3 small lot single-family residential. And this rezoning would enable a subdivision application at the property. There's a total of 2 lots currently existing. There would be 2 lots existing afterwards, but the intent of that subdivision application would be to move the shared lot line that they both have. And this would create an opportunity to build 1 additional residential home. Here's a site plan of the property near the corner of Cedar Street and Thibault Avenue. You can see 3911 is fairly large, and then 3909 is a very narrow lot. And here's an air photo. You can see there's a large existing single-family home on the one property with an accessory garage, and then that property 3909 is currently vacant. And that is the property where, if everything goes as the applicant is intending, that's where the additional single-family home would be constructed. In terms of the official community plan land use, the R3 zone that they've requested does align with the current residential land use. The residential land use on this map is everything you see there in bright yellow. So it does fit in with the surrounding neighborhood quite well and aligns with our OCP policy. The zone of the property is currently R1 single-family residential, and they're proposing it be changed to R3. This is still compatible with this residential neighborhood. A rezoning would only result in 1 additional home, and we consider that to be a low-density, low-impact development for a neighborhood like this. And this is the site plan the applicants have submitted that show the property as how it would look following a successful rezoning and subdivision. You can see a dotted line going right down the middle of those properties. That's the existing lot line, and it would be moved to just over 2 meters to the west following subdivision, which would make Lot A big enough to have that small lot single-family residential home. In terms of the infrastructure, site access, and servicing, all of these requirements would be addressed by the planning department and the engineering department during the subdivision application process. And whatever the city determines in terms of improvements, whether that's to do with driveway letdowns, sidewalks, or water and sewer services, the applicant is responsible for paying for all of those improvements. And since this rezoning is within 800 meters of a provincial highway, the BC Ministry of Transportation and Infrastructure would be required to sign off on the zoning bylaw amendment. To summarize the application in our analysis, this application aligns with the OCP land use designation, and the application also aligns with OCP policies regarding residential infill development. And council, given that this application aligns with the OCP, council may choose to waive the public hearing under the Local Government Act. And this application also aligns with the intent of the R3 small lot single-family residential zone. And staff do not anticipate any significant impacts to the neighborhood as a result of this application. So staff's recommendation is that the amending bylaw 5072 be now introduced and read for a first time, and that the amending bylaw also be read a second time, and that council waive the public hearing as the application aligns with the OCP, and that council direct staff to issue all required public notices. Thank you, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions from council? Okay, seeing none. Councillor Douglas, would you like to read the motions?
If I say so moved, would that cover everything?
No.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, thanks. I'd like to make a motion that zoning map amendment number 59 for 3911 and 3909 Cedar Street, Hopkins, bylaw number 5072 be now introduced and read a first time.
Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Patola. Seeing no comments on the motion, all in favor? Carried, none opposed.
I'll continue?
Yeah.
I'd like to make a motion that zoning map amendment number 59 for 3911 and 3909 Cedar Street, Hopkins, bylaw number 5072 be read a second time.
Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Patola. Seeing no comments on the motion, all in favor? Carried.
And finally, I'd like to make a motion that council waive the public hearing for proposed zoning map amendment number 59 bracket 3911 and 3909 Cedar Street, Hopkins, bylaw number 5072, in accordance with section 464 brackets 2 of the Local Government Act, LGA, as the proposed amendment aligns with the official community plan designations and direct staff to provide public notice in accordance with section 467 of the LGA prior to consideration of further readings of the bylaw.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Dame. Seeing no comments on the motion, all in favor? Carried, none opposed. Thank you. No correspondence for action today, no proclamation, so we'll move on to correspondence for information. Twyla.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So there's 4 items in your package. One from Ambulance Paramedics of BC, extending their congratulations to council on the recent election, and an invitation to meet. You also have communications from the Association of Vancouver Island Coastal Communities, or what we refer to as AVICC is the acronym, regarding the 2023 AGM and convention, at which time they will have their call for resolutions that they will consider, if any received, as well as nominations. This year, AVICC has also requested any topics of interest that conference attendees would like to see on the agenda. They would welcome those as well, and any submissions could go through the Corporate Services Department. And then you have communications from Ministry of Mental Health and Addiction, and that's in follow-up to meetings held during the UBCM convention, and communications from Ms. Terapaki regarding the Redford Street Tim Hortons location, accessibility, and cleanliness.
Thank you. Are there any items of correspondence councillors would like to speak to? Councillor Douglas and then Councillor Solda.
If I may, just on the BC ambulance, I just wanted to make you aware the president is a colleague of mine, and I've been in correspondence with him fairly regularly on other issues to do with mental health and stuff, so I'd be happy to work with council and facilitate any conversations if we choose to do any.
Great. I think we should accept their invitation to meet. It's always nice to build that connection, and BC Ambulance is not a group that we actually have regularly met with, so maybe we'll ask staff to set that up, and you and I could meet with them if possible. I mean, all of council could, but if we wanted to do a smaller meeting, you could attend for sure. Okay, Councillor Solda.
Madam Mayor, one of the topics that I would like to bring up at the AVICC that they could do a little mini meeting is to do with internet bullying during elections and the election process. I had that discussion with Penny, the chair of the AVICC, and she thought it was a great topic. And it's not just cyberbullying, it's also just in-person bullying. And that's happened a lot throughout the last election, and it's something to bring up and talk about.
Thank you. And so what is the deadline on bringing forward topics?
They didn't stipulate a deadline for topics from council, but we'll get those in very quickly. The deadline for resolution consideration and submission is February 9th.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. Any other comments from council? Seeing none, and this is just for information. We'll move on to report from in-camera, and today we want to release from in-camera that updates on the Chief Administrative Officer recruitment and contract extension. So we want to let the public know that council has engaged a company, a recruitment firm to work with to find a new CAO, and we have begun that work. And in the meantime, while we look for a new CAO, we have extended Tim's contract until the end of March. Any thing that council would like to add to that update? Okay, seeing none. Okay, and on to council reports. Are there any items from reports or activities that councillors would like to highlight today? Okay, not seeing any. Oh, sorry. You have to put your hand out here.
I'm used to being over there. I just want to recognize Councillor Dame. He's already volunteered at the Salvation Army Kettle Drive this year. Thank you so much. And I think Sarah is organizing a date for the mayor and I, but I want to challenge the rest of the councillors to do at least one shift during the month. That would be awesome. Salvation Army is just such a great organization. I think it's a great time of the year to help support them. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Haggart. Okay, so with that, we'll move on to new business. A few items here. Number one, from the Director of Corporate Services, the 2023 regular council committee and commission meeting schedule. Twyla, did you want to speak to this at all?
Certainly, thank you, Madam Mayor. So this just provides council their regular meeting schedule going into 2023. We also take the opportunity to include Committee of the Whole meetings and APC, Advisory Planning Commission, Traffic Advisory Committee, Audit Committee, and the Heritage Commission, etc. Past practice, the schedules reflect past practice with the exception of the regular meeting schedule, which is prepared and submitted as per council's procedures bylaw, with the exception of the months of July and August, where staff are suggesting that council hold one meeting per month versus two.
Thank you. Any questions on this? Okay, Councillor Haggard, would you like to read these motions?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to move that the City of Port Alberni Council approve the 2023 regular meeting schedule attached to this report and confirm that regular meetings will commence at 2 p.m. and further that staff be authorized to publish notice of availability of the schedule.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Solda. Any final comments? Seeing none on the motion, all in favor? Carried. None opposed. Thank you. And if you want to continue.
I'd like to move that City of Port Alberni Council approve the 2023 meeting schedules attached to this report for the Committee of the Whole and confirm that Committee of the Whole meetings will commence at 6 p.m., Audit Committee, Advisory Planning Commission, Advisory Traffic Committee, and Alberni Valley Heritage Commission.
Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Solda. Any comments? Seeing none on the motion, all in favor? Carried. None opposed. Thank you. And item number 2 from the Deputy City Clerk, authorized council registration at the Truck Loggers Convention from January 18th to January 2023. And I think Councillor Haggard, you've attended in the past?
I was supposed to attend last year, but it got canceled at the last minute, and they did an online virtual conference, so I attended the virtual.
Okay. So, Council, I would like to attend, and if, I don't know if Councillor Haggard would like to attend since she has last year, or...
I'm still interested in attending. If nobody would
member.
like to attend, I would be happy to go with you.
Okay. Does anyone need background on the Truck Loggers Association? Okay. Tim, are you able to provide a little bit of background?
Madam Mayor, I'm not best suited for that, sorry.
Okay. I'll just say, I mean, it's obviously forest sector related. Truck loggers, compared with some other organizations, are mostly supporting the independent contractors in the forest sector, who often, I think, don't fit into some of the other associations that that are in the community or in communities. So they put on a convention every year. I've in the past I've been to the Truck Loggers a few times, as well as the Council of Forest Industries, which I would say represents kind of a different group of portion of the sector. So they bring very different perspectives, and I would say there's value to our community in attending both of those conferences. Okay. Any other interest in attending other than Councillor Haggard? Okay. With that, then I will move that Council authorize Mayor Minions and Councillor Haggard to attend the 78th Annual Truck Loggers Association Convention and Trade Show taking place on January 18th to January 20th, 2023 in Vancouver, with authorization to include reimbursement of expenses incurred as per the city policy number P6 Travel Expense Policy. Seconded by Councillor Solda. Any comments? Seeing none on the motion, all in favor? Carried, none opposed. Thank you. And we had one new item of business, which was from Councillor Solda, just about Rainbow Gardens.
Madam Mayor, I would like to invite, there's been a lot of controversy up in Westport, and I would like to invite Rainbow Gardens to a meeting, just to say what they're doing. If you haven't been up there, they've built low-cost housing for seniors, and they're just doing a lot of development up in Westport area. And it would be great to invite them to talk about future plans that they might be endeavoring.
I'd like to second that.
Thank you. I was just going to ask if council would be okay with that as a motion rather than a notice of
sorry.
motion. That's okay, just since it is, I mean, just to invite someone as a
It is.
delegation, I think that's fine. So moved by Councillor Solda, seconded by Councillor Douglas. On the motion, all in favor? Carried. Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to question period. Are there any questions from members of the public? Okay, Councillor Mealy?
Sorry, Madam Mayor, and I apologize. I should have put this new business. I did have a question, a slight question for staff, just because it's going to snow tomorrow. So I just wanted to know how our snow removal budget's looking. And I know that the crew's been out brining the roads. I see that, and we're obviously ready. So I apologize for kind of throwing it on you, but how are we looking so far when it comes to what's left for this year and next year?
Thank you. We had a hard snow removal year last year, so that's a great question. So thank you.
Madam
Tim?
Mayor, as Council Mealy says, the crews are ready, and they'll brine before the snow, and they'll be ready to come out and plow. And although we had a high expenditure snow plow season early this year, budget is not an issue when it comes to snow plowing, and we won't curtail operations based on budget. So that's maybe a misconception among the community that there's not enough money to plow streets. We'll plow streets, and we'll make it a budget adjustment if necessary.
Yeah, and thank you for saying that. I think that's a really important message for us to help get out in the community, that while we set a budget, we do not plow based on that budget. We plow based on need, for sure. Councillor Solda.
And maybe this, Madam Mayor, the CAO can explain. A lot of people say, well, my roads aren't plowed, and how we decide how we plow the road, what road we plow, and also about cars on the side of the road, like on the curb. Maybe we can tell them to move them.
Wow.
I just want to note that there was just a really good post put on social media on the City of Port Alberni's Facebook page that did answer some of these questions. So,
Perfect.
But Tim, if you want to add to it.
I'll probably just contradict that. So at the risk of that, the first part of the question?
Priority streets.
Priority streets, thank
So
you.
it seems to rain here on Friday nights and weekends. It's just the way it goes. And so we're fortunate to have a works crew who are committed to their work, and they come out and plow. Often we can get adequate staff to come out and plow. But our policy is that on overtime, we plow main streets. And so we don't plow residential streets on overtime or after hours in the evenings, but we redirect our crews when they arrive at work Monday morning or whatever the next morning is to get out and plow as many streets as possible. So sometimes that's where there's a misconception about why wasn't my street plowed. If it's evening or a weekend, we're doing main streets. And we are in touch with emergency services. If they ever need support to get anywhere, we're there to support them to get in. There was a second part of that. As far as cars, yeah, I probably shouldn't weigh in on that. There's no easy way to move snow off the street without putting it somewhere else. And if you can remove your cars from the streets, generally that's a help if we're anticipating snow.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Seeing no other items of new business or questions, would somebody like to move adjournment? Moved by Councillor Solda, seconded by Councillor Mealy. On the motion, all in favor? Carried. Thank you.